Introduction. Faith is a weapon. Why this history must be told, there is a particular kind of lie that survives not because it is convincing, but because it is comforting. The story Christianity tells about itself in America is one of those lies. It is a story of moral guidance, charity, sacrifice, and love, a story repeated so often and with such confidence that it has come to pass for truth. But history, when examined without reverence or fear, tells a far less flattering story. It tells of a faith that did not merely walk beside power, but learned to speak with its voice. Christianity in America was never only a matter of belief, it was a matter of authority. It arrived with guns, laws, schools, and borders. It arrived with the power to name people sinful, savage, lost, or damned, and then to punish them for it. From the beginning, conversion was not simply an invitation to salvation. It was a demand for surrender. To be converted was to be stripped of language, of memory, of land, of ancestry, and eventually of the right to define oneself at all. This book insists on a definition of conversion that the church has long avoided. Conversion, as practiced repeatedly in American history, was not about the soul alone, it was about compliance. It was about producing subjects who obeyed the right God, the right laws, and the right men. When belief did not come freely, it was extracted through hunger, fear, imprisonment, beatings, family separation, the slow grind of humiliation of being told that everything you came from was evil. These things were not accidents, they were not misunderstandings. They were not the excesses of a few immoral individuals. They were the predictable outcomes of doctrines, sermons, and systems that taught domination as divine while churches preached them. Governments enforced them, courts upheld them, and generations were taught to call the result civilization. That is why this book names names. It names churches that wrote theology to justify conquest. It names denominations that split rather than surrender the right to own human beings. It names missionaries who measured success not in understanding, but in obedience. It names doctrines that declared entire peoples disposable in the eyes of God. Abstraction has been the church's refuge for centuries. This book refuses it. The language of morality has often been used to conceal brutality. Words like mission, discipline, education, and salvation sound gentle until one asks who was disciplined, who was educated, who was saved, and at what cost. Children were taken, families were broken, bodies were worked, violated, buried, and forgotten, and all of it was explained calmly and confidently as love. What makes this history unbearable is not merely the cruelty, but the certainty with which it was carried out. There was no confusion about right and wrong among those who held power. There was only the belief that God had already chosen a side, and it was always theirs. Once that belief is accepted, anything becomes permissible. Violence becomes correction, theft becomes stewardship, silence becomes virtue. This book is not written to reassure believers or to preserve the emotional comfort of institutions. It is written because silence has done enough damage. Silence has protected churches while children suffered. Silence has allowed apologies without repair, confession without consequence, forgiveness without truth. Silence has asked the wounded to be patient while their abusers kept their pulpits. There have always been those who resisted enslaved people who reimagined God outside the Master's church, indigenous communities who hid their ceremonies to keep them alive, women who challenged the authority that named them inferior by divine decree. Their existence proves that faith was never the problem, power wasn't power. When wrapped in the language of God, has proven itself especially dangerous. The past is not past. The habits of domination formed through coercive conversion still shape American life. In politics and education and law, and in the insistence that Christianity deserved authority without accountability. Until this history is spoken plainly, those habits will continue, dressed up in new language but driven by the same fear, the fear of losing control. This book does not promise redemption. It does not offer closure. What it offers is something far more difficult and far more necessary: truth named without apology. Because only when the lie is exposed can the damage be understood, and only then can anyone honestly ask what justice might require. If faith is to mean anything beyond the defense of power, it must survive the truth about itself.